the research proves big goals work better than small goals. That may sound counterintuitive, but that's what the research says. Goals that are harder create more commitment, more discipline, better execution. They bring out more of what's good in you. Susie Kassam, the poet, said, doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will.
Welcome to everybody out there. I'm Coach Micheal Burt. Welcome to a very special series of podcasts that we're doing with the great Dr. Pritchett out of Dallas, Texas. And Dr. Pritchett, you don't know, but I've been a big advocate and fan for you. I know you've sold 14 million books, but I feel like I've sold some of those recently because there's not a coaching session that I do or a morning message that I don't send out, that I don't talk about your books to our people, specifically Quantum Leap Strategy, what we're going to talk about today, and U Squared. We're in a series right now talking about heart optimism. And so we're going to get to a lot of things that you and I are going to be doing, but welcome to this podcast on Quantum Leap Strategy.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for being one of our great marketers. That's keep up the good work there.
It's easy to market something you believe in. And for the people who are out there who don't know who Pritchett is, I want to read a little bit of a bio before we get started today. We're going to be doing a series of these interviews in preparation for a new business executive program we have coming out in 2025 on the Quantum Leap Strategy. Pritchett is the founder and CEO of Pritchett LP, a Dallas-based consulting firm. He holds a PhD degree in psychology and is an expert in the fundamentals for breakthrough performance. Since conducting his dissertation research on personal achievement and self-directed change, he has served as an advisor to senior executives of the most prestigious corporations, helping plan and execute fast growth strategies through mergers and acquisitions and other large-scale change initiatives. He's been quoted in Fortune, Business Week, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, been featured on CNN, CNBC, other major channels, and this is so remarkable. 14 million copies of his book sold, one of the best-selling business authors in the world, and that, with 90% of books never sell more than 5,000 units. 14 million. Man, when I read that, I go, now that is something else. So, Price, thank you for being here today, and let's get into some Quantum Leap strategies. And
Sure.
because your special skill set is so needed in today's world for people that are experiencing incremental growth, they're stuck, they've plateaued, they've hit a ceiling of complexity. Let's go back a little bit in your career, and let's go all the way back to the military and the start of the business, because I think, and the decision for a quantum leap. So let's go back in the key roles and revelations that you had along the way.
Okay. Well, first of all, I got a little deeper into the backstory. I got a bachelor's degree in English. And why? I was good at it. I mean, I could ace those courses. And so I was not the most astute, academically inclined person at the time in terms of knowing where I was going. I was just like, okay, I'm good at this. So I got the bachelor's degree in English. And I thought, well, I don't think people are going to be knocking down my door to hire me. Maybe you need a master's degree. So I got a master's degree in English. And he's like, this is kind of nonsense. I'm going to go get a professional degree. But I had always wanted to write. And I thought, the more you know about the human being, that surely would help you in your writing, you know, whether you're crafting fiction or nonfiction, whatever. So I just wanted to get a professional degree. Okay. And so that I felt like I could carve out a professional career. So I got the PhD in psychology and did a year's internship in a clinical setting, actually working on psychiatric ward, which is one of those great learning experiences. But I knew from the very beginning of the doctorate in psychology that I was going to work with business and industry. That's what I'm better suited for. And so got the degree, but I had to go into the military because I'd gone through an ROTC program. You had to do it for the first 2 years of my college. And so the second 2 years kind of made sense because you're getting course credit for it. And at that time, you were going into the military and the Vietnam War was on. And I was thinking, I'm going to go as an officer if I'm going to go. So I got the PhD and then went directly to an assignment in the Pentagon. And I was a captain in military intelligence in the Army. And it was a terrific learning experience in a lot of different ways. So at this point in time, I'd seen the hospital world, the clinical world, and then I got to see the military world, which was interesting because of your bureaucrats and your military. You got those two camps there. And it's so you learn a lot about organizational dynamics within the hospital setting, within the military. But then I went to work with a psychological consulting firm in Chicago called Management Psychologists Incorporated. It was a terrific learning experience. We had superb clients like Parker Penn, the City of Chicago, Motorola, Masonite, Upjohn, Clark Equipment, Playboy. It was great. And the main thing we did there, I guess the biggest chunk of our revenue stream, was psychological assessments of top execs. And I've done hundreds of executive assessments. And so you get really attuned to how people run their careers, where they're making mistakes, how you size up when someone's strengths, weaknesses, and so forth. And we use that learning. We will be using that learning and those skills in this coaching program that we're putting together. It's a real differentiator. And so I was with that firm for some time. Like I said, great learning, great clients. And then I wanted to put down the deep roots of my career in Texas. That's where I'd grown up. And I'd done an internship in Houston. And I thought Dallas is a better climate. I like Dallas better. And so started my business here in 1974. And we've just had the pleasure of working with amazing clients. I mean, top tier blue chip clients. We got to work internationally, all over the globe almost. And so it gives us some real breadth that we get to bring to this program. Now, I don't know. That's kind of a quick, sketchy run through the years past.
So when you started the business, right, and you worked with management psychologists, you did the psychological assessments, you made a decision to start your own firm. Did you start off in mergers and acquisitions, or did you start somewhere else and one day go, that's the big table? Because that statement, the big table, everybody's looking for that.
Yeah. Good question. I started out basically doing what I'd learned to do in Chicago with that firm. We did a lot of executive assessments. We did organizational studies, employee attitude and opinion surveys, different things. We developed some training programs for major clients. And it was really at the end of the 70s, I was getting bored. And I thought, we've got more potential than this. But there were like 5 things. I thought, okay, I want to break some new ground.
Yep.
I want to carve out a niche that is our niche. And we are the best in that slice of the world at what we do. Yep. I wanted to be working with the very top execs in major companies. I wanted to have a high billing rate. There was a commercial instinct at work here. Yes. And I wanted to play in a zone that I thought there's going to be a ton of work there over the years to come. Yeah. And so all of those factors kind of woven together, I decided we're going to go into merger integration strategy work, which was a field that did not exist at the end of the 70s, which is peculiar, but it didn't. And there were no books that had been written on the integration process of companies. I mean, I dug around at University of Texas Library,
Okay.
the City of Dallas Library, the Southern Methodist University Library, and no books. I scraped up I think it's about 13 journal articles that made some passing reference to integration. And so this was beautiful. I mean, we got virgin territory here. The bad news was you've got to carve out your path. But it was very much an entrepreneurial journey. Why did I take us there? Well, we were getting stale.
Yep.
I could see limits to what our growth rate could be. And I wanted to go where the money was.
Yep.
The big money is in mergers and acquisitions.
Yep.
And it's exciting. You can have a huge impact, and it's challenging work. So there were a lot of reasons that came into play there, and my goal was to be number one in
Yep.
our niche, and that was 1979. By 1985, we were. I had written the first book on merger integration strategy. We had a methodology defined. We had been working with clients for several years. And so that was a true quantum leap for us.
When you think about the desire for a quantum leap, as a psychologist, because, as a coach for 33 years, we've heard that where there's no pain, there's no change.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The motivator of potential, which is could be defined, I guess, as a kinetic energy that's stored until activated, or an idea of embryonic growth that will be better today than we were yesterday. Do you believe that you got to get to that frustration point to want that quantum leap? Or do some people go, I just see a potential here and I want to go for it?
Well, I'm sure it comes from all of those directions. It can and does. I think pain or frustration is probably the best driver, or the most common driver.
Yep.
We kind of have a philosophy, or kind of a mindset here at Pritchett, that if you're approaching a client comes to us, says they want to talk. Can we talk? We want to see about working together. My first instinct is go toward pain.
Yep.
Go toward pain. That's when you get movement. That's when people go see the dentist, not when they need to get their teeth taken care of. Or, someone has a heart attack. I think I'll go see the doctor. Maybe I'm not eating right, or getting any kind of exercise. My lifestyle is a wreck, whatever. So I think when people, sometimes it's because they flatline. Sometimes it's because they come up against a major barrier. They're kind of stumped. And I think that they know intuitively they've got so much in reserve, so much latent potential. It's just dormant. And it's like, surely I can do better than this. And a breakthrough is a different animal. It's different. I think everybody kind of has goals. Sometimes they don't do anything better than a lame New Year's resolution, but everybody wants something. Everybody. We're born with that instinct, and it's good. That's what makes the human race survive and progress and everything. But I think every individual has some of that. Some of us, we just have more of it to begin with. We got more of a need for achievement, but we're just kind of born that way and raised that way.
Right.
And some people have a much higher level of comfort with where they are and they want a peaceful, low challenge existence, that's perfectly fine. We're
Yep.
made in so many different ways. But I
Yep.
will say, everybody has the potential for a quantum leap.
Well, as a coach for many years, um, I've never thought about quantum leaps the way you write about quantum leaps, right? I've been in programs where the concept was to 10x the business.
Mhm.
Structurally, I've been in other programs where with 10x just meant work harder, whatever you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And then you come along and you write the quantum leap strategy, and just the way you write, and now that makes sense with your English background. It's a skill of yours. The way you write, there's something about the way you write that opens up the mind. There's two things that I think happens when I read your books. One, it really opened up my mind to be ready for a quantum leap. And two, it kind of instilled a boldness, a remarkable boldness to go for it and go, man, we could do this, right? Like I see it out there, like whether it come through strategic partnership, whether it come through
Mhm.
key connections, because now I'm weaving all of your books together from Lucky You to Hard Optimism to U Squared. Now I'm seeing the trends where they all tie together in some way.
Uh-huh.
So for you, what are some of your core beliefs about a quantum leap strategy? If you said these are my core beliefs about how this happens and how to get your mind ready for this.
Well, a quantum leap is a different thing. Like I referenced a minute ago, it's different than ordinary goals, normal kinds of goals. It is an there. I sat down and a couple of days ago I thought, okay, we're going to be talking. Now, what's the difference between reasonable goals and quantum leap goals? Well, the
Yep.
first one is just that. Most people's goals are fairly reasonable, and a quantum leap is pretty unreasonable. Usually, a, a reasonable goal, or a regular goal, it's in that general category of where people typically live and set their aspirations. Okay, so one's reasonable, quantum leap's unreasonable. It's you're reaching beyond what seems obvious or the next incremental practical step on the career ladder, so to speak. The next thing is you usually kind of know pretty well how to reach a regular goal. With a quantum leap goal, you don't know how to reach it. You don't know how. Secondly, with a regular goal, you you can see the resources. You set that goal because you look at your available resources and you think, I've got this, I can do that. I can see that the world would let me do that, so that's what I'm going to go for. With the quantum leap goal, you don't have the available resources. You walk in with blatant, obvious constraints. Okay. Next, with the regular goal, you've engineered your ambition so that you expect low number of mistakes or no mistakes.
Yep.
With a quantum leap goal, mistakes are a key part of the process. That's a real twist. Next, I mean, you use them, you exploit them. Okay. Next, with a regular goal, trying harder probably works. It
Yep.
usually works. It's a trap when you're shooting for a quantum leap goal.
Yep.
Trying different.
Yep.
Trying differently, I guess to say it properly. Trying differently is the secret. And usually you end up, the game is easier.
Yep.
And then one finally, I would say the big difference is with regular goals, you can usually stay in your comfort zone.
Yep.
That's the big reason why you picked it in the first place. Yeah. So you get to stay in your comfort zone.
Yep.
With a quantum leap, it's taking you on a ride. You will get pulled by yourself out of your comfort zone. And that's good because that's where growth happens.
Yeah, I love it. And that's where the heart optimism comes in, and that's where the mindsets come in.
Right.
Now, question, do you have to choose an aiming point? Because when I wrote the book A to B, it's just 15 questions that prompts and forces people to get clear in what they want to do. And I put two words in that book that I forgot I had even put in there called opportunity confusion, where there's so much opportunity, people can't choose an aim. And then you come along and you use this word aiming point. And I go, man, that's good. Because if you don't have the aiming point, does a quantum leap happen if you don't have an aiming point? Or is it first to sit down and create the aiming point? You made a decision. We're going to be number one in mergers and acquisitions. You got a clear aiming point. All of your resources and time and energy went toward that. Is that necessary first?
It's critical. It's kind of like, if you want to make a quantum leap, you need to be sharply pointed rather than well-rounded. You show me someone who is number one, number two, number three in their field.
Yep.
They probably didn't get there or remain there by being well-rounded.
Hey, it's Coach again. If you're serious about accelerating your path to the big table, I've got an opportunity for you. You can schedule a free call with a member of my team to talk about your goals, what's holding you back, and how we can help unlock the next level of growth for you. But let me be clear, this call isn't for just anyone. It's for business leaders and entrepreneurs who've already experienced success, but know there's another level to be unlocked. There's a bigger table, and you want a seat at that table. If this is you, head to freecall.coachburt.com and book your free call today. Again, that's freecall.coachburt.com, and I'll see you at the big table.
Quantum leap goal. Well, I used to call it selfish, and I had an Australian guy that was going through one of our courses, and he said, I don't like that word. That just sounds bad. Selfish, And I said, okay, well, let me put it this way. Quantum leap goals have a big appetite. They want all of you.
Yeah.
And it's not like that you're going to have to spend the rest of your life this way. But if you're wanting to win the Super Bowl,
yeah,
I'm sorry, the kids want to go trick or treating or they want to do this. I'm sorry, kids. I've got game day coming up,
Yeah.
Or there's a recital. You make sacrifices to achieve just leverage up to an entirely different level of performance. But people do that. And you change your game, and it requires pretty much all of your cylinders to be focused on that.
It takes me back to when I was a women's basketball coach. For 13 years, I woke up every morning with one aiming point, and that was to win a championship. And I, slept at the office, and we worked till midnight, and we came in at 6:30, and it was all for that one night of being the best, right? Being in the middle of that arena of 10,000 people cheering for you going, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. A lot of sacrifices. Yeah, and that'll be something nobody will ever take away from you, to be the best. And it's hard to explain to people that have never won championships what it's like to sacrifice that much, to be that good, to have that know-how, because it's what you learn in the process that really makes you all of those things. So when I think about aiming point and the sacrifice it takes, I totally understand. Now, somewhere along the way, you're trucking along, you become the top at mergers and acquisitions. You're going into these companies, and you're seeing the dynamic, the human dynamic, right? And it's playing out when change happens. And then when along the way did you say, I want to go over here and write this book, U Squared?
Interesting, because that's kind of a right angle thing going on all of a sudden, right? Well, here's how it happened. I told you we did a lot of executive assessments.
Yep.
And these are very in-depth professional evaluations. But anyway, so here's how it would play. I'll be doing several of these a week. And so let's say on Monday, here comes Canada Day. And he's going to spend 5-6 hours with us, going through some testing, working up, an in-depth interview with me and so forth. And so you'd see this guy, and he's a successful guy. He's got a lot of assets going for him, a lot of personal strengths and so forth. Okay, then Tuesday comes along. Here comes another candidate. Okay. And you look at this thing right off the bat, and you see that this guy, it's not the same company he's applying for. He's over here somewhere else, but he's the same age. His academic credentials are certainly every bit as good as this guy's. He packages himself just as well as this guy. His personality is just as congenial and seems skilled with people. All of this, but this guy is making 2 or 3 times what the first guy was. And you're like, okay, so what's going on? This guy made some different choices. And when did that happen? Why did that happen? Because it's not because of potential. There's something else there. Okay, so I would see that for a while. But then I came to Dallas. And I started my own company in 74. And I took us into merger work after a few years, which was a whole different altitude of the game. But I began to see the same peculiar dynamic. Here's, because we had a variety of clients, cut across all kinds of industries and everything. And so here's the story, or the anecdote I'll give that kind of makes the point. So let's say you got a $500 million company. It's rocking along. It's doing nicely. It's growing about 6-7% just organic growth per year. That's company A. Okay. And then I'm working with, let's say, company B over here. And company B happens to be in the same industry. And it's knocking down about $500 million a year in revenues also. And its growth rate is pretty much the same, just good, steady, organic growth. Shareholders are fairly happy, But all of a sudden, one day, company A goes out and buys company C, which is another $500 million company. And just like that, company A has doubled in size.
Yep.
That's a quantum leap.
Yep.
They didn't get it. They didn't get there by working harder. And
Right.
that's a mistake that they did it by changing the game. Yep. They had to step out of their comfort zone. And frankly, I can tell you, trust me, they didn't totally know how they were going to do it, because these things are living, changing deals.
Right.
And you're not going to get it perfect. You kind of do some degree of stumbling through an integration process, kind of like you do when you make a quantum leap. You try to get it perfect, and you'll never get it at all with a quantum leap.
So
I'm sorry, that kind of lost my train for a moment there. But so I'd seen this with individual executives. One's making 2 or 3 times the other one, but you can't see any obvious reason why. Company A, company B, same size. All of a sudden, they're very different. One is just shot so far past the other one. And I'm thinking, all right, now that's fun to think about. And I sat down and I did my doctoral dissertation on self-directed change and fast growth, breakthrough performance. Yep. And I had read 25 or more books on success, self-improvement, all of that kind of stuff, all the classics, the Napoleon Hills, all of those. And I love those books. I still love those books. And at the time, they were totally ignored by professional psychology. I was going through a PhD program. Those books were never mentioned. I thought, this is absurd. But anyway, so because these books tell people how to improve themselves, they don't have to have a therapist, a PhD psychologist, or counselor with them. So anyway, I sat down and I thought, if I'm going to write a book that I think people will actually read and finish and maybe even reread and talk to their friend or whatever coworker about.
Yep.
And so I sat down and I wrote U Squared.
Yep.
And when I finished, it was like this tiny little book. But I have a serious bias toward tightness, the tightness of the message, so people don't get lost in the message. You give them what they need to execute. And it kind of is manifested also in the coaching program that we'll be doing, because our approach is very much minimum effective dose. What's the least effective dose that gets the job done? And so U Squared turned out to be 37 pages with a good bit of white space.
Yeah.
There was a study done, I think it's 2022, that found the average adult completes only 46% of our country's adult population complete one book a year.
Yep.
And that's 46% that complete at least one book. I wanted a book that people would read. And then I wanted them to think.
Yeah.
The book gives them space to think, time to think. And then it comes down, execute.
Yeah. So obviously U Squared, if you haven't seen it here, was a major home run of a book. And actually someone sent it to me and said, you got to read this book, U Squared. And then you follow that book up with the Quantum Leap strategy. Now, let me ask, because the people, we've designed this program for business leaders, right? I coach a lot of, let's say, $2 million to $50 million companies, service base. They're showing that incremental growth. They're frustrated. And so how do you think, because what this book got me thinking of, okay, it got my mind going to places. Where could I show a quantum leap? What is the aiming point? Do I strategically partner with someone? How do we find this niche that we're looking for? So the small business owner that reads the book, because I could show a quantum leap through strategic partnership, right? We could show it through merger and acquisition. We could show it through, because several years ago, there was a coaching company that had 300 salespeople, and I was generating about 2,000 leads a month, but I had a small team. I couldn't get to all the leads, right? So I went to the coaching company and I said, I'll bring the leads and you bring the salespeople. And I think we can do 25 million, 50 million, because you have the manpower and I have the know-how and the leads. And but we didn't end up doing that deal. But the funny thing is, the CEO of that company came back to me many years later and asked me to be on the board of directors of a publicly traded company, which I think will show a quantum leap. It's so crazy. But that's really what U Squared gets the mind thinking. So when you wrote the book, did something in your life change? Was it like a hit right out of the gate, or has over the years, because it's one of the books that continues to climb in sales, which is very uncommon with a book?
It's really funny. People are stunned when I tell them this. I wrote the book in 1989.
Yep.
It sells more today than it has ever sold. That little handbook, 37 pages of content, has produced easily well over $3 million.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, the typical book sells what, 5,000-6,000 copies.
Yeah.
And I think, and it's got this cult following all over the globe. India, it's a big book in India. Anyway.
Yeah, and but it really happened. You didn't do a lot of marketing. You didn't do the funnels and paid ads, and And that's what I tell people. What is so remarkable about this is 14 million books out there in the market, really because it impacted a person's life, and they said, I want to send it to somebody else. And that is really amazing to me. So what is human nature? So there's going to be people who out there watching us who go, okay, I want to be coached by these two guys in this quantum leap strategy. I'm incremental. I want to show a big leap. I'm tired and frustrated of where I'm going to go. What happens in human nature when a person decides to make a quantum leap? What's the human nature side of this?
It's an interesting process, and it is a process. I think that people get excited. It really charges you up to. The research proves big goals work better than medium goals or small goals. That may sound counterintuitive, but that's what the research says. Big goals work better than small goals. Goals that are harder create more commitment, more discipline, better execution. They bring out more of what's good in you. So the process, I think there's some initial really being cranked up, but there's always day two, right? There's always day two. And then people get scared of themselves.
Yeah.
What have I done? Susie Kassam, the poet, said, doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will. And I think one of the things that our coaching will be doing is helping people through those dark times.
Yeah.
I think people have to, and another thing we help them do is reconceive failure. Rethink what failure is. Like I said, if you're shooting for a regular goal, you've pretty much engineered big mistakes, failures, setbacks. You've tried to engineer those out.
Yes.
That's not the case when you're going for a quantum leap.
Yes.
You're going through a discovery process, a learning process, and forward motion is the fastest education you can have going for you. And so the mistakes are there to guide you toward what's next. So I think I just wrote a blog just a few days ago about the 4 levels of a quantum leap. And it's like, and I got to thinking about this, kind of what do people go through? Where do they kind of end up or whatever? And it's like level one is doubting.
Yeah.
This is where people, they really love the idea of a big breakthrough, but they focus on what could go wrong, how hard this could be, and will I make a fool out of myself?
Yep.
They don't focus, and all the constraints that they can see. That's where their focus goes. They focus on potential losses as opposed to potential gains.
Yes.
And they say, well, I need to do some more planning. I need to get ready. And you may have heard me say in just some of our conversations, Coach, that getting ready is the graveyard where big dreams go to die,
Yeah.
And there are tombstones everywhere. There's not a lot of getting ready for a quantum leap.
Yeah.
You very quickly start get going.
Yes.
And that is the key secret. That's one of the insider secrets of how you do this. So there's level 1, that's doubting. Level 2 is dabbling. And this is where people, they're kind of putting their toe in the water, but they're not trying differently. There's no real hardcore commitment. And so they're just kind of messing around with it. It may be that they don't really have that clear and well-defined of an aiming point. It may be that they are playing with 6 goals at the same time, whatever. But the main thing is they don't really move off of their old game into a new game. So level 1, level 2, level 3, things are much better here because this is driving. Level 3 is driving. This is where a person they're actually trying differently. They're experimenting, and all is good. And they're beginning to focus more on their thinking is better. They're staying more in the optimistic zone. They're listening to their hero voice as opposed to their villain voice that's, talking them down in the first 2 stages. And they're making progress. Okay. They are still vulnerable to setbacks and failures, or lowering their ambitions maybe, but these guys, got to give them credit. They're in the game. But level 4 is where you want to get to. Level 4 is determined. Level 4 is I am all in on this new game I'm playing. I have X'd out of my life a lot of things that keep me stuck in the old game. I've created white space to do things differently. I am sharply focused, and God, I'm going to get there. Okay. Now, here's the most interesting thing about level 4. You need to be really keep your spider senses alive, because strange good things come out of nowhere. This is where coincidences happen. There's a lucky break. Here's someone you never dreamed of this thing happening, but life offers you something better than you had even originally planned. You began your field of vision is better. Your sense of hope is much fuller, and you have a far better grasp of what you're capable of doing. But it's like serendipities come along. And there was a novel written by Anne Patchett some years ago. It's a good novel, but there was this line in it that stopped me cold. I wrote it down and I've used it before. But the line is, never be so focused on what you're looking for that you fail to see what you actually found.
Wow.
And when you're in level 4, it's a much more expansive life you're living. And the way you're behaving and the way you're thinking and the way you're managing yourself and your interactions with other people, they see you differently, and things come to you that wouldn't have when you're in other spheres of life.
Well, I think, because I'm going through Lucky You right now, and you can drive up the probability of luck. Strange, good things do start to happen. People do show up. And one of my students sent me a message yesterday that said, man, this is why I love working with you. He said, you talked about Price Pritchett for a year and reading his books, but you took it to the next level. You went to Dallas to meet him in person. You know what I'm saying? He's like, you're doing what you tell people to do. You manifested it. You created it. And I thought, just talking about your books and then having the boldness that day to say, hey, I want to come meet you in Dallas, spend some time with you. Now we're doing a program together, right, called the Quantum Leap Strategy. And he's like, this is why I just love working with you, because you do what you tell people to do. That remarkable boldness. There's something about your books that puts people into an optimistic frame It adds some remarkable boldness in there, and you take complicated concepts and you break them down and make them simple, and you give them those structures, right?
Well, thank you, first of all. And what you did and what we will teach people in this course is you take action.
Yep.
You know, the old Nike slogan, just do it. Do the work and the world will show you how.
Yep.
It's really fascinating, but we will teach people about the importance of going where you have to go.
Yeah.
I mean, physically, you got to quit just dreaming and planning and thinking about it. It does, it takes action and it takes a relentless pursuit. But one of the books we'll give some time to in the program is this dumb little book I ran across at a train station in London. I was over there doing some work for General Electric, some merger work, as I recall. And I was waiting for the train, and here's this little newsstand thing there. And I'm always looking at books, you know, see some new idea or something. And there's this ugly little paperback book. It's called Bunkhouse Logic. And I don't even know why I picked it up, but I did. But I love this little book. It's been renamed now. It's still out there. I can't remember what the new name is on it. But anyway, the one key message in this book is you can't win if you're not at the table.
Yeah.
You've got to go to the table. And so the table in this case was, well, the table was here. It was, you know, and us getting together, and you showed that initiative, you showed that drive, and that, you know, putting energy and action behind an ideal, an ambition, a plan. So
yeah. Well, let's finish with this question today, because this is going to be a series of interviews that we do together, all gearing up. There are people already enrolling in the program, in our coaching program for next year. So we're going to be talking about that, but it will be 4 sessions in person with Dr. Price Pritchett and I, and we're deciding on the cities right now. We'll have that probably decision done today if you're watching this in the future. And you also get 4 boot camps with me that you get to choose. You get all of our books and all of our things as part of that program, and it's going to be really for the person that has reached some incremental growth. They're ready to go get a seat at a bigger table. You're going to gain a remarkable boldness. You're going to get clear on the aiming point. You're going to know how to make a quantum leap. So I'm so excited about this with you. For years, you know, I studied under Dr. Covey from 18 to 25, and I just got to spend a few minutes with Dr. Covey at 25 years old, and I had to borrow the money from my mother because I was a high school teacher, and to go through his certification. It was $2,500. I didn't have the money. I was making, you know, maybe $2,000 a month coaching basketball, and I went to my mom and I said, I think this could change my life. If you'll loan me the money, I'll pay you back $50 a month. And I went through the certification, and it did change my life. And but I only got to spend a small amount of time with Dr. Covey. And I always thought, if at 25 Price, if he would have said, man, I want to work with you over the next year, what that would have done for my life to spend time with him. And I really think the same thing about you. Spending time with you, it gives people an impression of increase. They're going to walk away and go, I'm ready to go do this. So this is a program that's going to be starting in 2025, but the enrollment is right now. So if you're watching this podcast series, you'll be able to go to our website, coachburt.com. You can schedule a strategy call with us by Book a Strategy. We'll walk you through the program, and we're going to take a limited number of people through this program called the Quantum Leap Strategy for Business People. So I've got one more question for you, because this fascinates me. The psychology of making a decision. We run a coaching business. We generate 2,000 plus leads a month. These are people who raise their hand, say they want to do better. We get on the phone with them, and Price, it just seems that, man, they labor to make a decision, to move forward with something that they say they want. I want to get better. And then it comes time to making that decision to invest in themselves. And I've always been fascinated by the psychology of just helping a person make a decision. How would you, if you were coaching salespeople out there that struggle with this same thing, what would you tell them about helping people make a decision?
Okay, two or three things, I guess, and this is ad-libbing. I hadn't thought about this beforehand, but first of all, they need to trust their instincts more on the upside. The research shows, that we weigh losses greater than gains, even what we think are potential losses versus potential gains. And major psychologists won the Nobel Prize in economics because of this research that found this. But it turns out that we weigh losses or potential losses twice as heavily as potential gains. So what this says is you're sitting here trying to make a decision. Oh, gee, I might waste my money. Oh, I might bomb out. I might, my friends, relatives may make fun of me for doing this and calling me stupid. And again, it gets back to listening to your hero voice and weighing the potential upside more dutifully. People see, it's kind of funny. And other psychological research shows that when we talk about risk, and that's what you're talking about here, Coach, is should I risk spending this money on this course or whatever? Decisions about risk taking, they're mainly not made by this rational, analytical part of your brain. They're made by the emotional part of your brain. And that takes us right straight to this weighing losses much more heavily than the potential upside. So I think if a person will step back and say, okay, I'm going to be fair about this. What do I stand to gain? What could this bring about in a positive direction, as opposed to overweighing, just a really seriously lopsided weighing of the pros and cons?
Yeah. Well, I think that one thing, there's millions of people that sell things every day, and they struggle with this, helping a person make a decision, right? And just walking through that, just thinking about what do you stand to gain versus what do you stand to lose. Now, I was watching this thing, and we'll kind of wrap with this, but I was watching the lessons that the Sharks learned on Shark Tank when Mark Cuban came to Shark Tank. And they said what Mark Cuban really did is he created something because he owned the Dallas Mavericks called the 24-second shot clock. So when a person wanted him to invest, he would say, I'll make this investment in you, but you got 24 seconds to make a decision. And if you don't make a decision, I'm out. And Herjavec said that changed the game on Shark Tank because people made it. They didn't want the fear of losing Cuban as their investor caused them to go, I'm in. And so I was thinking about that, like how could salespeople do that and create that 24-second shot clock to where a person knows what they want to do, but they got to make a decision. And that was an interesting finding. So I'm fascinated by the psychology of decisions, and we'll get into all of these things in the coaching program. Now, we're going to be doing a series of these. We kind of started with U Squared today. This is the book that you can get at Price's website. We talked a little bit about the aiming point, but then we'll move into the quantum leap strategy. And these go great together. But we'll have a chance to unpack a lot of your work. And what we're really doing is showing people the kind of coaching they will get when they enroll in our program. So you can go to coachburt.com. You can book a strategy call. We'd love to visit with you if you're out there. We're taking a limited number of people in 2025. And I think this is going to be a game-changing coaching program. So thank you for doing it, number one. And I am honored to work with you.
It's a pleasure. We're going to have some really good times, and we're going to change some lives.